Across Texas, increased immigration enforcement is causing workers, even those with proper documentation, to steer clear of job sites, leading to labor shortages in industries like construction and restaurants.
Most people think this story is about Minnesota paying the price for being a so-called sanctuary state. It isn't, because the same thing is now happening in a place that's about as red as it gets, Texas. In a previous video, I broke down how aggressive ICE enforcement in Minnesota, specifically Operation Metro Surge, reduced construction labor and pushed housing and remodeling costs higher. That video also highlighted something uncomfortable. Many of the people detained weren't cutting the line. They were doing it the right way. Work permits, pending asylum, even steps towards citizenship, and they were still detained. Oh, snap. And a lot of the reaction was predictable. That's what blue state Minnesota gets. So let's talk about Texas, because Texas is now facing the same labor problem and reacting very differently. Construction labor shortages in Texas have become so severe that lawmakers have proposed something you wouldn't expect from a deep red state, a bill called the Essential Workers for Economic Advancement Act. The idea is very simple. Offer non-citizens temporary renewable visas up to 9 years so that they can work legally in key industries where employers can't find enough workers. Construction, trade, labor-intensive jobs. This bill was proposed by Monica de la Cruz, a Republican from Texas. What? That alone should tell you something, because this isn't driven by ideology. It's driven by economics. Builders can't find workers. Projects are slowing. Costs are rising. Sound familiar?
Without enough workers and construction slowed, it sends ripple effects throughout the economy. Some economists say that it could drive housing prices higher. Guerrero says his industry needs help, so they're turning to lawmakers. Last week, his group met with Representative Monica de la Cruz, who expressed support for a visa program for construction workers, similar to one already in place for agriculture.
We're not asking for you not to do the rates, we're just asking, please don't do it at our job sites where you have low-hanging fruit.
Now this is where it gets interesting. Another Texas Republican, John Cornyn, has made it clear that he's not ready to act on something like that right now, which leaves Texas in a bind. Aggressive enforcement on one side, severe labor shortages on the other, and housing costs caught in the middle. This is the part that matters, at a time when even documented immigrants are increasingly hesitant about showing up to work sites. Something has to give. You can't run a construction-heavy economy on symbolism. You need workers, and when workers disappear, the math doesn't change. Less labor means higher costs. Higher costs means fewer home builds, and fewer homes built mean higher prices. That's true in Minnesota, and now it's true in Texas.
Last week, U.S. Senator John Cornyn said he's open to legislation addressing the need for qualified workers, but not until the border's secure.
Not going to dive into the changing our immigration laws at a time when we're still in the process of removing people who shouldn't be here in the first place.
As elected officials debate solutions, local leaders say they're just trying to keep projects staffed and communities growing. In Austin, Daniel Perel, KVUE News.
This completely breaks the narrative that this is about blue states versus red states. It's not. It's about enforcement speed outpacing economic reality. And here's the bigger takeaway. States can posture, politicians can signal, voters can cheer, but housing markets don't care. Oh, snap. They respond to labor supply, timelines, and costs. And right now, both Minnesota and Texas are learning the same lesson from opposite sides of the political spectrum. You can't remove large portions of a workforce, including people who are legally allowed to work, and expect affordability to improve. It's not compassion versus law and order. It's just cause and effect. So when people ask why are housing costs still rising, this is part of the answer. It's not the only one, but it's a real one.
According to the Federal Reserve of Dallas, the Rio Grande Valley saw a 5% drop in construction jobs in the third quarter of last year, the largest decline among major regional industries. Guerrero says typically a 2,100 square foot home would take about 4 months to build. Now it's between 9 and 11 months.
And that's why you're now seeing Republican lawmakers in Texas proposing visas, not because they've changed their politics, but because reality is forcing the issue. So the real question isn't, should immigration laws be enforced? It's this: can enforcement be structured in such a way that it doesn't quietly blow back onto housing, affordability, and working families? Because if even Texas is signaling that something has to change, that should tell you that it's not a regional problem. It's a national one, and ignoring it won't make these costs disappear. They'll just show up somewhere else, usually on your bill. If you want more breakdowns like this where we follow incentives instead of slogans, stick with me here at the Independent Mail, because policy doesn't just stop at the border. It usually ends up at the price you pay. Until next time, peace and stay informed.